We acknowledge that the land on which we live, gather, and exchange ideas is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat people. Welcome to the Brockville Museum series Out of the Vault. This is a series where we take a closer look at some of the neat artifacts that the Brockville Museum has in its collection. My name is Alice, I'm the Community Program Coordinator here at the museum, and today I'm in the archives room. This is where we store a lot of our paper documents. So what is ephemera? Now, ephemera refers to all the documents that we come across in our day-to-day lives. Things like grocery lists, invoices, receipts, that type of thing. And they're very time sensitive. They only serve a practical use for a very limited period of time. You may have, say, an invoice if you're doing business. You may retain it for a period of time, but then you might end up disposing of it once sort of that transaction is finished. Now, the neat thing is that ephemera is collected by museums and archives because they're great examples of social history. Ephemera are primary source of documents. A primary source is first-hand evidence of a historical event, a historical time period. It's created by someone who lived during that particular time, and it's really useful to us as historians and museum professionals as we're sort of building that story about Brockville. So you may think that business ephemera, things like invoices and receipts, are dreadfully boring, but the cool thing about them is they can tell us a lot about the different businesses in Brockville, who was doing business with who and why. So this example that I have today is an invoice from the Bowie and Company Brewery. This is an invoice between that company and the Brockville Club, which was a local gentleman's club on Courthouse Avenue in Brockville. Now, the neat thing about this is that we know it was produced on August 15th, 1916, and it was for 5 cases of ale, which set the Brockville Club back $7.50. We can also learn a little bit more about how the Bowie company did business. For example, on the invoice, it tells us that empties are to be returned as soon as possible, and it also sort of lists the different quantities that you could purchase from the Bowie company. So how can we use this artifact for research? Again, it's a great artifact when we're trying to establish how different Brockville businesses actually conducted business within the city. So it's a great example of social history from that standpoint. It's a good example of an artifact tying into economic history. To look at sort of how much did, if someone asks, well, how much did ale cost? Well, this is a really great way to kind of get a concrete example of economic history and the history of beer making, even in this region. Another thing that it's useful for is it's helping us to figure out the timeline of the Bowie company and sort of what points they did conduct their business. So these types of examples of ephemera that connect to a certain business are useful to us in filling out that story. I'd like to thank you for tuning into this episode of Out of the Vault, and I hope you will join me next time.